such a long story. I think it was at the Paramount whateverth anniversary, and they did a big group photo, and you were assigned a seat. And we had been chatting before, it was time to take the photograph, and we became friends, instantly, of course, as these things happen in Hollywood. And we went to go sit down to take the photograph, and we weren't seated next to each other. And being really young and bratty, we, of course, wanted to change our seating order, even though we'd been told numerous times that you can't change it. So we asked Harrison Ford to move because he was in between us. He looked at us like we were two, adolescent chumps, which we were at the time. But he very kindly moved, and we got to sit next to each other, and it's like... Bette Porter is a complete type A personality, very, very driven woman who's the director of the California Arts Center in Los Angeles. She has been with her partner, Tina, for 7 years, and they've just decided that they want to start a family. So in the pilot, they're looking to find a donor. The entire story is not really about lesbian women in West Hollywood. There's Mia Kirshner and Eric Mabius play a heterosexual couple who live next door to Bette and Tina. So it's also the story of their relationship. It's really, I'm sure, it's interesting because the primary group of women are gay, but there are other aspects to the story. So it's really, the show then becomes about how anyone deals with ambition and intimacy and race and class and our notions of family. Well, I don't think we even have to relate to things that are going on in quote-unquote real life, because the characters are constantly living them out on the show, and it's not as if I don't believe that Eileen Chaikin, the head writer on the show and the creator of the show, says, well, gee, there's a lot of articles about gay marriage. Maybe we should tackle gay marriage as an issue. I mean, Eileen Chaikin, as a gay woman who's been in a relationship for 20 years, I think writes out of her own imagination and out of her own experience. And certainly right now I'm speaking for her, which is maybe not the greatest thing to do, but I think that her own experience is informing the show, not necessarily headlines that you see. So sometimes those two things collide, and that's interesting, and sometimes they don't. I mean, certainly we have a larger issue like two women starting a family, but then there are smaller issues like what do you do when you've been with somebody for 7 years and your larger circle of colleagues know that you've been in a lesbian relationship for 7 years, and yet every time they send you an invitation to a party, it's to Bette Porter and guest, when they know very well what your partner's name is. So there are other issues that maybe aren't quite as so largely represented in the legislature that are dealt with on the show.
It seems that you're, and this is my perception of it, that you're drawn to character. And I'm just wondering, is that really what it's about for you? Or is there is there a thread that weaves through the kinds of character you've played from, say, Twilight of the Golds or Devil in the Blue Dress? Or
for me, the most important thing is the story. I mean, I want to be part of a really good story. I don't care if the part is small, I don't care if the part is big, I just want to be part of a really great story, because ultimately the story will outlive any performance. And to want to just have a big part, to me, would just indicate that my ego has gotten out of hand. And to me, the most exciting thing is to be a part of a story that will outlast me, and that will ultimately, and certainly more importantly, be helpful to other people. Well, I think that really this show will attract a similar audience as Sex and the City. I mean, it's really as if some of the gals in Sex and the City had slept with each other and had sexual or intimate relationships with each other, because it has, certainly there will be straight men who will initially want to watch the show because of probably some prurient interest, and then there's other people who will want to watch the show to see what the various characters are wearing at any moment, as they do with Sex and the City. And then there are other people who will be excited to see their community represented, and some people who will just be so enthralled with the depth of these relationships and the complexity of these relationships, and the way that it's sometimes dealt with humor.
That she wanted to have this dress made out of, and we went to this one designer, and I was looking for a dress. Oh, I don't remember it. I don't really remember that part. I just remember we had a good time.
But you've been friends ever since.
Yeah, but I mean, she went and had 4 kids, and I went in another direction, and so I haven't seen her in ages, but it feels like we just picked up where we left off, joking around. Very similar sense of humor.
That's cool. So let's talk about that. I've decided that after 4 seasons, I'm not going to ask any more questions. If you were interviewing Beth, what would you want to know from her?
I would want to know, why is she still with Jody? First of all, right now, I want to know why you're still with Jody. Like, what's the fixation, and why would you please stop acting like a high schooler with a big crush on somebody who's not really giving you the time of day?
She's smitten, and Jody is a heartbreaker. She's bad news.
Well, I don't know if she's bad news. It's just you have to play by the same rules, and Bet doesn't know how to play by those rules anymore. I think when she was probably 22, she could, but I don't think she's interested in that anymore. So I would say to Bet, what are you doing? Just walk away. Walk away. She'll follow.
Well, where do we find Bet at the beginning of this season? Is she still on the lam with the baby?
At the beginning of the season, yes, Bet is on the lam with the baby. But then she quickly realizes it's not necessarily such a wise plan.
And she starts a new job. What is this?
Yeah, she starts a new job. I have to think about it. What the hell's my job? What is my job?
She's the dean.
Yeah, oh, right, thank you. I'm the dean of the art department. Bet's the dean of the art department at, I want to say USC, but it's not USC. It's CU.
That's right.
She's the dean of the art department at CU, a fictitious university. And one would imagine that as the dean of the art department of a relatively prestigious university, that we'd be able to delve into ideas about art. No, we've had a couple of good scenes about art, but I don't know. I guess they think somehow people aren't interested.
It's always Nadia saying, class is over. That.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so at this university, we're introduced to two new characters are introduced into the fold.
Yes.
Who I mean, you talked a little bit about Jody, but if you'd also...
Phyllis is introduced via California University. She's played by Sybil Shepherd, and Phyllis is my boss, my new boss. And she's a little crazy. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Very smart, but a little crazy. And at the relatively late stage of the game, she's realized that she's gay. And so we have to sort of escort her through that whole coming out process.
Right. I love that she just unloads on Bet, and Bet becomes her confidant. How do you think Bet feels about that?
Well, it's perilous. Because, something goes awry, then it could be my job.
How do you think season 4 is different from prior seasons?
You mean story-wise or offset or on-set?
Oh, I think story-wise. What
I
do
have
you
no
expect?
idea. I don't know, Gigi. I don't know. I really don't know.
How's it different?
It feels like there are a lot more characters. It feels like there are a lot more characters. But I don't know. I don't know. It feels like maybe there's more comedy, but then there are things that are intensely dramatic, so I don't know if that's really true. Maybe the beginning of the season is a little bit more comedic.
Yeah, it's lighter. It's a little lighter.
Yeah. Well, trying to follow up last season's dirge, that was really so sad, so it was good to lighten things up.
Is it different on set after 4 years?
I think it's more relaxed. I mean, it was always relaxed, but there's no drama to speak of anymore at all. So it's very relaxed.
Everybody says you need to have a really thick skin to survive in this particular business. And yet being open is crucial to playing a role. How do you manage those two dichotomies?
Well, Christopher Walken says you just need a big face. I feel like I have a big face, so I fit that criterion relatively well.
Oh, good.
So
That's
it's, you know, in comparison to the rest of my body, it's relatively large. So it can fill up the screen. I think that's why I'm an actor.
Wow.
I did actually say that to a group of actors, which was really
Past acting coaches will be so proud to hear you say that. Such dedication to the medium.
yeah, I just so thrilled I have a big head.
Well,
Literally.
Here's the thing. Acting for such a large public audience has to feel high pressure. Maybe it doesn't anymore. I don't know if when you were younger it was scarier. But how do you deal with your fears when they come up?
I don't think about it. Isn't that clever of me? I just don't think about it. I mean, I think about the task at hand, and whoever watches, and I try not to worry about that. I just don't, it doesn't even occur to me, really.
Right. Did you receive any acting advice early on that you still heed today?
To listen. Listening is the most important thing. But that can be really frustrating when what you're listening to is not commensurate with your idea of what the scene should be. But to listen is the most important thing. And to respond truthfully.
Have you dished any of that advice on this set?
No. These people are incredibly accomplished. Like, who am I to ever give any of these people advice? I'm going to them for advice. It's like, what do I do with this scene? Can you please help me? Can you please direct me? Always, I go to other people asking for help.
Do you have a particular scene that you've done that for this season, or one that was a challenge to play?
I'm always asking, and I used to ask Erin all the time. Now I guess I'm just going to have to do phoners with her, fax her the scene. It's like, I don't know how to do this. I know you know how to do this. Will you please let me in on the secret? I don't remember what scenes. There's so many.
Right.
You know. Well, the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade. That was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I just wanted to go back and do the whole thing all over again. It was so exciting, and people were so lovely and just really excited to be there and very supportive, and it was really a pleasure. And I'm not one to enjoy big crowds, but it was a really great experience. I really enjoyed it.
What's one issue on the show that you personally relate to?
One issue. Well, there's one point, and I don't know that's an issue on the show, but there's a point where Bet is lecturing about art, and she quotes somebody else saying that the purpose of art is to lead us away from the mechanical and towards the miraculous. And I feel like that's what acting is for me on a good day.
Anything that you don't identify with on the show?
That I don't identify, well, there's tons of stuff that I don't identify with, not the least of which is all the fashion 24/7. Though I enjoy it, it's not something that I can relate to very easily, but I do enjoy it. I can't say that I don't. It's a nice respite from my wardrobe.